going live. It's live.
All right.
All right.
You wanna do
This week's episode is sponsored by. Let me get by Lovable, and here's the link. Please go to it. I think that works. Oh yeah, you should go to this link, by the way.
Okay. All right. What am I
So
supposed
that
to
it
do?
tracks
I
you.
want to make a
This is
website.
it's a tracking link.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lovable
Okay.
is the best way to vibe code your way to a new website.
I love that we have a second order sponsor here.
It's actually sponsoring Hangout. Yeah, Lovable is an amazing company. In just a few months, they have millions of subscriptions and revenues, and it's because they have this incredible product. If you try it out, you instantly see it's way better than Card or Squarespace or anything like that, because you can build exactly the website of your dreams, even more complicated websites, but also great landing pages very instantaneously. Very clean designs, very modern. Really impressive what they can do.
Very demure. What is it? Okay, great. So now that we've done the station identification, shall we continue?
Yeah. So what's happened this week on top of it? I mean, there seems to be more and more. There's actually a really good article in Hacker News where somebody measured the sentiment of AI throughout the years of Hacker News. And there was, I observed a doubling when ChatGPT launched, and then a doubling again of AI news when ChatGPT 4 launched, and then a doubling again this year. So it's just like an overwhelming amount of AI focused news almost entirely in currently.
This reminds me of Bitcoin. When I just remember, like, there's this idea around sampling bias, which is basically like there's too much information, and so we want to, but the problem is there's fear of missing out. So there's so much information. How are we supposed to navigate it? And I realized that if you just gave a sentence in 2011 on finance, it would be people are talking about Bitcoin. In 2012, it would be people are talking about Bitcoin. 2013, people are talking about Bitcoin. And so there's this like weird thing in information theory now where the more valuable something is, the more widely it's known. Whereas it used to be information that was scarce was valuable. Now it's information that's everywhere is super valuable.
Is this Sean Pai watching?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, I would assume so. Anyway, so
wait, Sean can come on. Let me get him on.
No. Can we just continue talking about AI? Or
you try character? I'll try to.
Okay. Sean can tell us about how venture capitalists are coming into the mining industry and how good or not they're doing. So anyway, what I was saying is that just taking like a one sentence summary of whatever the market is sort of all the alpha. So I guess the question that I have for you is, there's this kind of counter story that's starting to emerge that we're in an AI bubble and that it's going to pop because AI is not actually that valuable. There was this claimed MIT study that said that 95% of generative AI starts by companies ended in failure. I was interested in what your take is on this.
Okay, Sean is on a plane and he's watching us live. He'll join in 10 minutes.
Okay, great.
Great. All right.
What's your take on
this is a special bonus guest sponsored by Lovable? We got
okay,
special
great.
Third guest.
Okay, so what's your take on this? What I just said about 95%.
I didn't hear what you said. Sorry. Were you talking about the sentiment? Oh, also the sentiment went really negative this quarter. It's more articles in Hacker News that are more negative about AI. Finally,
that's what I'm.
And Sam Altman said there might be a bubble, and a few other people are saying there might be a bubble.
Yes,
which kind of usually indicates it's not a bubble, because usually people never predict that.
I don't think it's a bubble, and I'll explain why. I think the vast majority of generative AI wrappers, which are basically all of these startup companies that have raised money, are bullshit, and they're not going to be valuable. And that's because the foundation models are moving so quickly. And at the same time, I think that it's very clear to me that the CRUD apps that are inside of businesses that are now being one-shotted by AI or written 85% of the way, and then like a normal developer writes the rest of it. I think that I think that's going to double the economy, the software economy.
Software. Okay, how big is the software economy?
Let's say it's going to add another 10 trillion in market cap.
Okay, that's a lot.
Decade. Over the next decade.
What's the GDP now? 40 trillion?
Yeah, I thought it was like 26 to 30, but maybe it's 40. But yeah, I think it's going to I think it's going to add $10 trillion
30 trillion.
Yeah, 10 trillion in the next.
Let's see. 10 years, but that's
so
I mean, that's a lot of growth versus 3%
that's inflation
that we've been seeing historically.
Inflation.
That's like China levels of growth from a really big base. That'd be insane.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen.
With humanoid robots or not humanoid robots?
No, I don't think that. I feel like humanoid robots are going to be like driverless cars, where we see that they were possible after the DARPA challenge, you know, the Google X or whatever challenge, not Google X, what was that called? The X Prize.
DARPA Grand Challenge.
The DARPA Grand Challenge, but there was also like an X Prize for it. And then people won it in the early 2000s. And then it took another 20 years before we actually saw the economics of it. And so I think this will be similar with robots. I think they're going to be really useful inside manufacturing facilities to do things like move boxes from one area to another. But one of the challenges with the robots is power. They don't have enough power. Were you part of this whole discussion that I had? No, you weren't. So I was talking with, weirdly enough, like the former CTO.
Sean says AIXCC. I'm not sure what he means.
So
DARPA Grand Challenge is the car competition.
Yeah, but what I was saying is it took 20 years before that before it became commercialized, and now we have both Waymo and Tesla making quite a bit of money with that. So what I think for humanoid robots is there's a challenge with the batteries, and the specific challenge is that if you can only charge the batteries at 0.5 C, then you can, for like an 8 kilowatt hour battery or whatever, 6 kilowatt hours, it takes an hour to charge it. And then it's only going to give, no, not an hour. It's like longer. I think it's an hour. It's going to take, you're only going to be able to run them for like 4 to 6 hours a day initially.
Run the robots, the humanoid robots?
Yeah.
Because the battery is going to be too heavy otherwise. But
no,
like a heavier, bigger battery.
It's going to spend too much time charging. So
wait, but I can charge a whole car for 5 minutes.
That's because it's a much larger battery.
Right. So I'm just saying it's too voluminous to be fit inside a humanoid robot, I guess.
No. So the way that battery charging works, is the larger the battery is, the more you can dissipate the heat. The smaller the battery is, the slower you can dissipate the heat. So
Brian's idea is to just do a battery swap, and the humanoid robot can do the battery swap itself. Wow, we have so many viewers today that we have like interactive discussions.
So my dad and I wrote the original patent for battery swapping for electric cars.
The one that like Better World copied?
Yes, that's right. Better Works. And then there was a company in China. I don't think it's called BYD. It was one of the car companies that copied our entire model. And what they showed was that there's a CapEx installed base problem where when you design you can't iterate the design when you go to a battery swapping system. And then as soon as you want to update like the pack, then nobody wants the old packs. And so it gets all messed up. And they basically spent like 30 or 40 billion dollars in China trying to do this battery swapping thing. And it just ends up being better that you just don't do it. So what I think will happen is the robots will come out, and for the first 3 years, they're going to be doing a few hours of work per day. which is not enough to replace humans, but it's kind of enough to be like an interesting one-trick pony. However, lithium-ion silicon batteries are coming down the line, and the like temperature rating on the ones that I just saw, like some guys are bringing the tech from China to the US anyway, was 10C. And so for those, you could charge the 6 kilowatt hour battery in like a couple of minutes. It was like 10 to 15C, because those are the batteries. Currently, lithium ion silicon batteries are used in high performance motorsport. So like F1, what happens is that you get regenerative braking, it charges a lithium ion silicon battery. And then that battery is then used with DRS or whatever to input more torque in the car, but it's a very small battery. They're super expensive, but the price is coming down. And so I think probably like 3 to 5 years after we see a few thousand humanoid robots, we'll have this switch over from lithium ion cobalt or LFP or whatever to lithium silicon, and that problem will go away. And the thing will just walk into like a Borg charge station. And it's at that point that the sort of like GDP numbers with the robots kind of go crazy. But anyway, I think there's going to be a much longer. I think there's going to be a much longer life. What was that?
Speaking of the humanoid robots, did you see China's already doing the Chinese or world humanoid robot games, like the Olympics for humanoid robots? And they're awful.
Didn't you say
it'll improve very quickly?
Yeah, the rate of improvement is what you want to look at. Did you say that you went to the BattleBots 2025 in San Francisco? You want to talk to us a little bit about what that is and what you saw?
Yeah, I went to Ultimate Fighting Bots cage match, where they had some of the similar looking bots as they had at the Chinese Olympics for bots. And they were pretty hilarious bots. They were kind of barely walking. They were tripping over each other, constantly falling over. And I saw in the Chinese Olympics that they were also falling over a lot as well. They dressed them up because that added more interaction, and they had announcers that did most of the actual interesting things and said interesting things, because the robots kind of barely moved their hands a little bit. But, impressive compared to like 20 years ago, where they actually can stand up and walk a little bit, which was historically very hard to do. So anyway, it was kind of a fun way to be not afraid of AGI and to see that we have no risk of being replaced by humanoid robots. But it'll be interesting to see how it improves. Like the original Teslas were very bad at driving 20 years ago. And even a year ago, they were very bad, actually. And then suddenly now they're very good.
I would love to see a robot versus human boxing thing. So I'm not really interested in watching
human.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in like a UFC, but with robots. So like, and there's rules, like the robot's not allowed to kill the human, but like for me personally, like that would be an interesting tech. So you have the human in there and they get to slug it out with the robot. And then you obviously you wear gloves and you just see like how long both can last. So I feel like that's going to be the incredibly popular robot fighting sport, is robots versus humans.
I think that's pretty scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's
why do you think that's scary?
easy for people to get. It's easy for people to get hurt. I mean, they're just heavier, right? I mean, we can wear gloves and stuff, but they're just made of metal. There's a lot of things that can go wrong.
That's not true. And there can be like weight limits, right? So like if you're a 150-pound human, then you can only fight against a 150-pound robot.
Yeah, but they can do, like, we use the weight to like keep meta stable and balance all this stuff. A robot can just make a super powerful punching arm.
They literally do this. They literally do the same thing.
They can really focus on a very strong punch. I don't know if the weight limits alone would be enough.
Everything about the robots is worse than the humans. So like all the actuators, Sean's like, Sean, nobody gives a shit about vanadium batteries. Stop talking about fucking vanadium.
I don't know. Okay? Sean knows about these.
No, I know. And I'm trying to
metals
explain
that are mined.
Nobody wants vanadium batteries. They want lithium silicon. Okay. Go look at F1. Like, what are the batteries that are in the F1 cars? They're silicon batteries, lithium silicon. And it's the same price. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't require a supply chain that's in Brazil where you can have a government change and then the company gets nationalized. It's like, don't, it's like, and CATL, like,
wait, aren't we getting a lot of companies nationalized these days? I heard something about Nvidia giving 15% of its profits to US, and Intel
like,
going to give its equity to the US.
So that's not what happened. So Nvidia like bent the US over, and the US had to take it. And so the trade was that they could say that they're going to give 15%, but let's just wait and see if they actually give 15%.
Wait, they just had a press announcement about giving 15%, but no money's gonna.
Correct.
How?
Let's see. Let's just wait and see. I'm very interested. You know, like,
but
like
the point of doing a press conference is that it's very public and it's hard to go back on it because everyone can point at Jensen doing this on stage, agreeing to it. I think even stronger than a contract.
I think it's a way. I think it's a way for the administration to save face, given that they got heavily bodied by Nvidia. So,
well,
that's my read on it. So,
well,
yeah. Is he still talking about? Yeah, no, yeah, he's a little. I'm going to be eating my words in 5 years. Okay, good. I'm really glad.
The batteries. Good thing we have this recorded. We can all point at it.
Nobody cares about vanadium redox batteries.
I don't think anybody will care about what we said in 2025 and 2030. We'll all be living on the moon, I think.
Or we'll all be dead. More likely, we'll all be dead.
No, you got to check out these Ultimate Fighting bots. There's no risk of them killing anyone. They can barely see anything.
No, I know. That's why I'm saying it has to be a human versus a bot. Okay.
Yeah, but then you're just training the people to make bots to kill humans and be better and better at it. That's like the worst.
They're literally going to do that anyway.
With guns, like maybe, I don't know.
Bro, the humans are not going to be okay. I think we talked about this before, but I'll say it again. When a soldier is in a theater, like let's say like an army guy is running around on a field, and they shoot their gun, their primary weapon, their AR-15 or their M4 or whatever. When they fire the weapon, okay, every single shot that they fire has a cost. It's a bullet. The probability that the bullet hits their intended target is around 1%. If you change from a bullet to a drone, the probability of hitting their intended target goes from 1% to 90%. The economics of warfighting have completely changed as a result of the drones. And the drones are getting cheaper, faster, and more lethal. Like at an exponential rate. Like the EW denied Ukrainian drones now, they don't require those like 30-kilometer fiber optic links. They can just fly EW denied, and then they have a terminal guidance system where it will see a face and then lock on and shoot towards it in the last kilometer. And then, so like right now, the drones move slowly because there's a delay with the operator. And so you can use a shotgun to basically shoot them out of the air. And so a lot of shotguns are being deployed for all the teams. But like now we're seeing drones going 300 kph, making a 20G turn into the target. So like, that's not a thing. You're going to hear like, you're dead, right? It's going to be like super fast. And so
sounds terrible.
And then the other thing is that the tip to tail ratio in the US military is something like 4%. So only 4% of people are actually engaged in fighting, and the other 96% are all like logistics, supply chain people, etc. Training, like half the work that the military does is maintenance, where they're like
cleaning. Army wins on its supply chains.
Yes. So the things that are happening with regards to this are, so the lethality rate of the weapons is going from 1% to 90%. And it's not the case that $100 drone is equivalent to a $100 bullet. So like a 50 cal round is on the order of $15 to $20. So it's getting close. So like every time that you see a sniper fire, that's like 1/5 the cost of a drone. And so if you say if you say, okay, if they have a less than 20% hit rate, then the drone is more cost effective. And also, so we're not quite there yet. The drones need to be a little bit more cheaper and a little bit better. But they're close. The rate of improvement is there. So you're going to see the number of people that are involved in active combat and war go from 4% to 40%. And the way that they're going to reduce the number of logistics and supply chain people is they're going to push all the manufacturing to the front. So all of the AI data center stuff, the whole predicate of it is that we are going to forward deploy electricity infrastructure. So we're not going to have, like, for example, it's not going to be like some
like
random
a natural gas plant.
no. So it's not going to be some random town in Texas builds $1 billion gigawatt power plant. It's going to be Google comes in and says, we want your land. You have water. We're going to bring our own power. So the bring our own power thing is putting a tremendous pressure to small the reactors to make them fit on a shipping container. So the next generation natural gas combined cycle natural gas turbines in the 10 megawatt range can now fit in a shipping container. So it used
one
to be
shipping container, a
yes,
40U.
One shipping container can do 10 kilowatt hours. That's the next gen. That'll be like 3 to 5 years from now.
Kilowatt, or you said megawatt? But
megawatt, 10 megawatt hours. So in the 1 megawatt hour, so like what's happening in with AI?
We got Sean.
Oh yeah, okay, good. So
right, you can keep going.
So anyway, so what's happening is there's this push to push all manufacturing to the edge. And so with the energy of having a 1 megawatt to 10 megawatt hour thing in a shipping container, the one next door is going to be an additive manufacturing center where you're going to send via software the plans for whatever it is, and you're going to build it on site, including drones. And this is the way that you reduce all of your long-tailed supply chain. Because like right now, as an example, there was an explosion, which doesn't really ever happen, in Baltimore Harbor that's denying the harbor again. Okay. And you'll remember there was a boat that crashed in the bridge that also denied the harbor. So why do we give a shit about the Baltimore Harbor? Because it's not relevant from a commercial standpoint. It's because the majority of military subcomponents for all of America's advanced weapon systems come from two harbors, San Diego and Baltimore. And so if you can demonstrate that you can deny the US military's ability to move parts from the defense contractors via Baltimore to the front lines, now the military doesn't work. So we have every ship on the ocean, every army unit all over the world, everybody has a cache of weapons. But when those weapons run out, because they're using them, they have to be replenished. And the place that they get replenished is these stupid long supply chains. And so now somebody, maybe the Chinese, maybe the Russians, maybe some random person, the boat just crashed in anyway, somebody has been showing like, hey, we can deny your ability to replenish your arms at distance. And so as a result, and with the AI thing on energy, there's this massive, massive push for miniaturization and manufacturing at the edge. And that is all going to be automated. And that's another place where like your bot, might be useful. So it's all, because like the other thing with the robots is we're talking about it in terms of batteries, but you could have it connected like with a cable. So you could imagine like if you have a 1 megawatt reactor that's a natural gas combined cycle turbine on site, then you could run like cables to the robots that they could use them within a few hundred meters. And now I think I'm all by myself. $5 per 50 cal round. I'm pretty sure I read $15, Brian, but that's all right.
So you're imagining this like big node of both fiber optic and power, and it has this like 10,000 lines spewing out into this mega hydra of drone killing warfare that's like moving from place for miles.
Hey, I can't. Hey, what's going on? Are you like bad internet or something? This just sucks. I think we should drop Sean because somebody's internet's not good enough here. Like, I can't. Perla, can you fix your internet? Got that.
I think that's Perla. I don't think that's me.
Hey, buddy. It's good to see you.
What's going on, dude?
You want to say something? I'd love to hear your take on why we're going to have vanadium redox batteries.
So I'm building the world's second largest vanadium smelting plant in the state of Georgia live right now.
Yeah, but where is that going to come from?
So the initial source of feedstock is coming from South Africa, but in about 2 years, it'll be within the United States. Like we can own the entire vanadium, titanium, um, full stack of like the minerals on a closed circuit on a closed basis in the lower 48. So the real reason for wanting to own vanadium in the country is that like there's a specialty type of iron ore that is iron ore mixed with titanium, and that when it's really hard to process that with electric arc furnaces right now. You need a special type of electric arc furnace. But when you process that like titanium iron ore, you also get vanadium as a byproduct of that, right? And so maybe you say like, oh, I don't care about vanadium, fine, but you do care about titanium. You're always going to care about titanium. And so like, if we're building these specialty EAFs, it will allow us to then go build a titanium ingot, a set of titanium ingot facilities in the US, which again, we don't have. We have TiO2 facilities that are run by Chemours and other companies like that within the US, but no titanium ingot. We can import all of that. So if you're going to be doing that anyways, you're going to be getting a ton of vanadium.
All right.
And
No, Perlette, Sean's talking. Keep going. So basically, what you're saying is we want to have smelting and refining for titanium, and a byproduct of this is going to be vanadium.
a huge amount of vanadium. Like it'll take America from like the world's 30th largest producer of vanadium to the third.
And do you think that this vanadium is going to be able to go into like batteries for the grid? Is that where it's going to be used?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so like if you look at the new like vanadium redox flow batteries that are already being tested in field by CATL. Like
Yeah.
currently they have stuff that like will eventually get rolled out over the next like 3-4 years. That's like these very large batteries that like get connected to. Then you miniaturize them and then you can use them in things like, bots.
So let me ask you this question on vanadium. I haven't looked at the math in a while. Is the power density or because the power density of lithium ion silicon is like 9,000 watts or something. It's freaking crazy. What
I
is
have to
there
check. It's higher, but I have to check what the number is. I don't
because
remember.
I think that the power density for lithium ion cobalt is like 400.
I mean, lithium, like to your point, Mike, like, like lithium cobalt, or, lithium silicate or whatever. I mean, like that's going to rule the space for quite a while. But these vanadium redox batteries are coming and they're coming fast, right? And we're not going to be limited by supply chain issues within 5 years to be able to manufacture them in country either.
All right, so I just asked the AI. Okay, but like, are we going to have enough that we're going to be able to make a meaningful dent? So I was listening to a supply chain thing yesterday about grid storage batteries, and the comment was basically that the world is going to add 3 terawatt hours of grid storage batteries by 2030, with 1.5 terawatts going to China and 500 gigawatt hours going to the US. Is the vanadium battery?
I'd say that's conservative.
You think that that's conservative by 2030?
I'd agree. Yeah.
Right.
I actually think that, if you believe in the theses that you believe around AI, then that necessarily has to be a little conservative, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Look at like, the white paper that what is it? Those guys out in Silicon Valley. What's that hedge fund that everyone was talking about for a hot second? That is run by some guys that spun out of like OpenAI.
You're saying about the 24-year-old kid?
Yeah. So they actually have a really interesting white paper about like superclusters and power demand, power storage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so situational awareness, that's who they are. Yeah, you should read their paper around like superclusters in the US and battery needs.
Can you summarize the key takeaway? We need a lot of batteries. Is that what the key takeaway
Yeah,
is?
I mean, key takeaway is you need to expand U.S. power generation by almost like 35% in 5 years.
I thought we had to double it.
Um, double current capacity? No, I mean
Yeah.
like just AI direct attributable is 35% per supercluster.
Okay, so the vanadium is an order of magnitude less in energy and power than lithium ion.
Sorry, you cut off. What did you say?
Vanadium redox flow batteries, VRFBs, are an order of
Mhm.
magnitude less
Our order of magnitude less what?
power and energy density. So they need to be 10 times cheaper in order for them to be relevant.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, the year-over-year drop in cost for producing them is like pretty fast. And like
Yeah.
vanadium right now costs nothing compared to, I mean, it's a waste product, effectively.
Yeah.
Right.
What? So if CATL is going after it, that must mean that they believe there's some value to it because they're super commoditized.
Yeah, yeah, CATL is putting billions of dollars into commercializing, you know, vanadium batteries right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I personally think we should go higher power density, higher energy density, but I think the future is, if LFP has shown me anything, it's number one, cost.
You may have both. You may have both.
That's what I'm saying. Cost can come down much faster than you think, and then energy and power densities can go up much faster than you think. Because I think LFP, when I first look at it, was like 150 watt hours per kilogram, and now it's up to like 300, which is about lithium ion. There's a bunch of them: lithium ion, cobalt, phosphate, cobalt, nickel, etc. But they're all basically like 300 to 500. And yeah, I'm like, and I think the pack level is like 278 or something like that, 250 to 278 or 220 to 270. So LFP went from a technology that was pretty far away to being competitive, and now I think Tesla is putting them in their sort of like down market cars.
Yeah.
And so I think probably the same could be true for vanadium, where if you add something to it, maybe the vanadium redox flow batteries get like 3 times more efficient, but the price only increases by 15%, and they're going to be really, really cheap. So yeah, that makes sense. But I still think the rate of charging is the bottleneck for the bots, because the bots have to carry their battery pack on them. And if your battery pack is 0.5 C, here I'll just put this on.
And the swapping point in there is a good one. It's
So
much more efficient to just have better batteries as opposed to doing battery
swapping is a bad idea. So even though that was my dad's great idea, and it was his life's work and everything, it turns out like after billions and billions of dollars has been put into it, it's a bad idea. Yeah. There's a guy named Jordan Giesecke who has a video channel on YouTube called The Limiting Factor, and he did a video on battery swapping and why it failed. And if my dad had seen that in the early 90s, like, he wouldn't have spent his entire life trying to do that. So yeah, I'm very partial to battery swapping. I wish that it worked, but I don't think it worked.
The thing is, it just like it sounds like it would make a lot of sense, right? Like basic sniff test makes you feel like battery swapping would make more sense.
Yeah.
Where's Joe?
I think his thing. Yeah. So at 0.5 C, it would take 2 hours to charge the bot. And let's say you're at 6 kilowatt hours, and you're at 6 kilowatt hours, and then you use 2.2 kilowatts is like your draw. You know what I mean? And then there's some heat losses. So basically the bots are going to be on for 2 hours, off for 2 hours, on for 2 hours, off for 2 hours. Unless you fix that charging rate. So,
I mean, I almost feel like it's better to just swap bots. No? Just
so then you're increasing your CapEx.
Yeah. But, you know, in stage 1 of all of this, like, that's probably what you'll just have to do. You'll just have a redundant fleet of bots.
you're going to have 12 bots for every role, and each bot is $200,000. So that's like $2.4 million in CapEx to replace a human.
You said 4 to 6 hours, so when you only need
No,
4 bots.
I just ran the numbers, Joe. At 0.5 C, it takes 2 hours. So C is just how long it takes to charge. 1 C is 1 hour, basically. So 6 kilowatt pack is going to take 2 hours to charge. And then if you look at the robots right now, they're drawing about 2,200 to 2,500 watts. And so you could imagine with heat loss that they're going to basically last for 2 hours. So you're going to, in order to do a full,
what is it about these bots that require that much power as well?
Well, so that's just how much it takes to run the onboard computer. The inference computer is, I think the Tesla AI 3 or AI 4 computer on the car is running at like 400 watts. And so that's, 20% of your power budget. And then you have all the degrees of freedom in the hand. You have all the actuators in the body. It's all less efficient than a human being. Like if you think about a human as energy in versus energy out, humans are much more efficient.
Look, and this is not something that this is like completely not in my circle of competency, but like, is there an area of research or technology that is looking at making these bots more energy draw efficient?
Well, of course, right? It's like the same area of research for the cars, right? You want to make the cars lighter, you want to reduce the, loss. There's an economic incentive to make everything less expensive, both from an energy and a cost perspective. And cost, you could say, is like a first order approximation of energy usage. So there is a cost curve that goes down, and then there's a learning rate. Like as we build 100, then 1,000, and 10,000, the costs come down. If you think about the bots,
while that you're saying that the bots are going to be like humans are going to be cheaper than all these bots, and that's why I was still using it.
Initially, because the problem it sounds like you're saying that humans take 20 years to grow. So there's a huge amount of resource that gets put into them on the front end. Whereas these bots are going to be able to be made like every 6 minutes. I think Tesla is making cars like the Model Y in Shanghai, I think is the fastest factory in the world. And they're making a Model Y every 40 seconds. And so like the idea that you could make a human in 40 seconds is like, it's not a thing. So again, I think when we think about the robots, there's a couple of things. The other one is that they get about 20,000 hours of useful life is what they're. What was that?
I'm walking through an airport.
I think Sean's at the airport.
Yeah, he's at the airport. I'm getting feedback. So if you think 20,000 hours and you have 2,000 cycles and each cycle is 2 hours, that's only 4,000 hours. So they're going to have to figure out how to become more efficient, right? So to hit the numbers. So like 20,000 hours is basically what Elon uses in his mind every time he talks about the robot. So if you think about like a $20,000 robot with 20,000 hours, that's $1 per hour in CapEx. And then of course you have, if you're running, 2.2 kilowatts per hour for the robot, then you're looking at another 50 cents in power, unless it's, solar, and then it's, baked in. So you're looking at $1.50 an hour in OpEx for these robots, or OpEx plus CapEx, not including training costs, which is another joke that we could talk about with Sam Altman, where he's like, hey, if you exclude training costs, like we're cash flow positive, where gross margin product, we are like, unit economics are positive, where inference time compute is
that's how cash flow positive works. You don't include your CapEx on training that you have to do one time.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it'd be really unfair to make someone be fully to expense the I mean, it's just an investment. It's long term.
Yeah. Well, and there's a good argument that the CapEx is a moat, right? So, although on the other hand, you get DeepSeek, they keep releasing, models.
Yeah, it used to be a moat. Now they have equivalent models that are open source. And yeah, I think DeepSeek wasn't just a moment. Like they got #1 on the App Store somehow. Nikita Beer, who's a famous growth hacker, when DeepSeek got to #1 during Christmas, he tweeted, "This is highly suspicious. It makes no sense that this app with no reviews is #1 in the App Store. Something's very fishy is happening. Like, never seen anything like this before." And then within 10 minutes, he deleted it. And he posted another tweet saying, I deleted my prior tweet due to nation state issues. So
Yeah,
someone,
right.
yeah, well, he deleted his tweet. There's nothing mention of it. And I concur with him. There's no way that DeepSeek would get #1 in the App Store. It had 5 reviews.
Well, one of the things that I have learned is that if you're like at the 80th percentile, you can sort of exist in the world by working hard and doing the right thing. But then as you get close to the 99th percentile, it's all fugazi, this and that. So like if you're the 5th ranked AI thing, then you're probably, your numbers are okay. But like, for example, you know, we talked about this earlier, Joe, where all the foundation companies like put in the training set the answers to all the questions to all those exams, and that was like a gamification. And then there was a paper that came out and said the open source models didn't do this, and so they were 30 to 40% worse, but that was the correct handicap for the expensive ones because they were cooking the books. I think you know, China leaning on Apple to make this app #1 was just another example of that. And it's all kind of, you know.
I think that's kind of probably what happened. Yeah.
You know, and now the US is leaning on Apple, so ChatGPT is listed as #1, and Grok is never, you know, what that was Elon's whole thing last week, his crash out about that. All right, so
capital is still a moat then.
Yeah, well, so Sean is here still. So what else should we talk about? You're our supply chain. You're our critical materials on the front end.
Yeah, if not batteries, what elemental metal will we be limited on for AI in the next 10 years?
Copper, baby. Always copper. That's always been my view.
Michael's talking about a mile-long power line for all these thousands of drones. That's all made of copper, right?
Well, you can make it out of aluminum.
You could make it out of aluminum. Yeah, aluminum's more expensive, and we're also lacking aluminum.
Yeah,
so
aluminum's pretty expensive to generate from bauxite, right?
Yeah, you trade one large scale base metal for a different large scale base metal that we don't have enough of.
Well, so so can you sponsor us, and then we'll always say like, hey, if you want to make an infinite amount of money, you got to go talk to our friend Sean at can I identify where you work, Sean?
Yeah, feel free to identify where I work.
Yeah, so Sean works at Heaney Capital. They're always raising. If you're an LP listening right now, you can write a check for $10 million, and you too can buy a spot and own the, you know, what is it? First, he was talking about building an arc reactor, I believe, in Georgia, but clearly he's going to do something in copper. So
no, we have to build an EAF. There's just too much steel in America that like we import and we don't get. Right. I don't think it's just us. There are a number of people that want to build more steel capacity in America. Right. Like, you know, you can't build all these power plants and, you know, large scale buildings and infrastructure without like the baseline, you know, copper, aluminum, steel that you need to build all that. Right. I think we're really focused on it's all linked. Right. Like if you're going to sit, you know, I think people spend a lot of time focusing on like, oh, the rare earths and the transitionary stuff. But like, you know, I mean, like the United States only uses about $400 million of rare earths every year, right? When you're talking not that much stuff.
So we call these my friends and I, we've been trying to go through the supply chain and like zinc is one, right? So zinc, iron, nickel, copper, cobalt. Hey Joe, why did you do this? Put me okay. So that's one. So that's one. But then the other one that's really interesting is there's something called TMAH, which is a very long molecule that's used in photolithography. And the entire global market for this material is something like $50 million a year. And China owns the whole thing. It's like they own the entire supply chain for it. And if they turn it off, nobody can make chips anywhere in the world at all. And we've identified like 20 of these materials that are not necessarily stuff that you mine out of the ground, but some of them are like, you know, chemical additives that you have to put in or you have to make or all this kind of thing. And China has identified all of them. And so I consistently wonder, you know, what the powers that be are gonna not do as they learn these things. So anyway, if you want to read about TMAH, it's very interesting. I think it's all
Yeah, I
negative.
mean, like, you know, if you look at the supply chain structures in China that like makes it so that they can do this, right? It's like all of these like chemical and mining companies in China, you know, as opposed to like what we're trying to do here in America, which is like subspecialty companies that deal with all of this, right? Like MP focuses on like a single set of like, you know, magnet related minerals. You don't really have that in terms of like the large producers in China. You have guys that like are producing that are mining like huge amounts of stuff out of the ground, right? And they, you know, they'll have like a large like base metals portfolio of something, or they'll have like a large gold portfolio or something like that, right? And then they'll use their mining expertise, or on the chemical side, they'll produce like a mass use chemical that has like, you know, effectively a ton of cash flow. And then it'll balance out the volatility of earnings for like all of these smaller but highly critical component, highly critical chemical, highly critical sort of like, you know, niche metal industries. And then from time to time, when it gets like really, really bad, the Chinese government will step in and give them subsidies. But like what they have realized basically, you know, since like Deng Xiaoping gave the CCP the mandate to like focus on this stuff, you know, pre Xi Jinping, is that like if they don't build it that way, like the industry just can't exist. I mean, you'll have like a centralized government that's going around and like subsidizing, you know, all of these different niche industries, and it just can't survive, right? Like,
Can I
yeah,
summarize? So basically, China has directed their large producers to make the vast majority of their money in some kind of base metal like gold or iron or whatever. And then they
mhm,
use all of the cash flow from that to also do all these other little tiny ones that each individually couldn't be a profitable business, but together help smooth out both the national portfolio and that company's,
yeah,
you know, risk profile. And I think what you're trying to say is that this is a problem with the way that the economy is organized in the US, because in the US, if you're going to do iron, investors want you to just do iron. They don't want you to use
that's
the
right.
cash flow to do some you know, gallium as an example.
That's right. Yeah.
And whereas if you're like, okay, I'm going to be a gallium guy, well, there's not a big enough market that's consistent enough. And then
And
because
China
China,
will just like
they'll dump.
manipulate the market
Yeah.
and one shot you over the course of 18 months, right?
Yeah.
And
So
then you're
the
Wow.
only
done.
way, the only recommendation to
Capital
fix this.
markets are inefficient compared to China's centralized capital
Yes. Well,
investors.
And also the funny thing is people are like, well, that's not pure capitalism. You need to let people compete. And my point to that is that's not actually true, right? If you have if the American government on the initial onset supports a set of metals champions, right, that does these large scale metals, it does make sense for you to then diversify down to these like smaller volatile metals, because in times where there are supply side pinches, you're making a ton of money, right? So like in the years in which it's like you're operating at a loss or like slight loss and you require government subsidies and you're just paying along, that's effectively you paying for the call option of having gallium in your portfolio. And in the years in which that call option pays off, it pays off big. But you can't do that. Like you can't just run a bunch of these niche call options as a portfolio because
Yeah.
the option premium is so incredibly high.
But someone should start a hedge fund that does a better investment
well, that's what
into.
I think that's what E Capital is going to evolve into. So it's an interesting point, right? Where China gives the state-owned banks give money to these companies. So I think China spent like what $20 trillion over the last 20 years, Sean, on this build out.
Can I propose something?
Belt and Road, yeah, and subsidies.
Can I propose something based on what Sean told me? So Sean said that copper is going to be limiting. Can you like do some like crazy new innovative models, like mine a bunch of like copper, like corner the market on some percent of copper, and then like do some kind of copper as a service where you like lease copper to people, and it's like they rent it from you because you've cornered the market, and like they don't actually buy the copper. You're just kind of like lending
Well,
it to
it's
them.
not just copper; it's refined copper. So it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Anyway, no, can't do that. Not with a commodity, because you can't.
Yeah, but just reframe it, redefine it. Just make a
so
whole
Perla,
call it new copper, corner
Perla,
20%
there's no
of the
way
market
to
of
there's no
copper.
way to corner the market. The largest like copper entity in the world probably controls single-digit percentage of copper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but no one's ever tried to say, like, Sam Altman would be like, I'm gonna go raise $10 trillion and buy all the copper in the world and then
Yeah,
rent
but
it to
no,
everyone
the
else.
thing is that there's a geopolitical consideration because copper is one of those elements that you don't want to sell. So your government, just like the US says you can't do M&A because it creates an antitrust situation, there's something called CFIUS, and they'll be like, no, it's a national security risk. So like there's a copper mine in who gives a fuck Stan. They're never going to sell it to you for any amount of money.
Yeah,
Mm.
and it takes a tremendous amount of like backdoor dealing to get access to that, right? That's why. Yeah, I mean,
I
like
tried to help a buddy of mine here in Kazakhstan, and he just totally went MIA for 2 months.
yeah, it's difficult.
Wow. So most of the cost of these elemental metals isn't even in mining it. It sounds like it's in like all this wheeling and dealing and like
Dude, it's so
protectionism
crazy.
and all this stuff.
Ron, do we have enough time for us to do? Oh, we don't have enough time. So
Oh, we gotta go.
Yeah, me too.
like if you drill a well to get oil or natural gas, you're producing within 90 days. If you want to go
Sorry.
and like,
Hello? What were you saying? If you drill a well?
if you drill a well, you'll get oil out of the ground in 90 days. Okay, in theory,
That's right.
if there's
Yeah.
if there's oil there. The problem that most people have.
Actually, you can do 15 days. In
Okay,
a lot of
but
places
you know
in
what I
Permian.
mean. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean. The problem with like a mine,
You stick
is
your
like
finger
you're
in
like-
it comes out.
yes, exactly.
Mhm.
But you let's say that you go like, okay, there's rare earths in Western Australia or whatever, and you want to open a mine. You have to
Mhm.
like do like bore holes to figure out what the composition is and where
15
it is.
years.
And then you have to design a chemical process to extract it and it's unique. Then you have to buy all the equipment. Then you have to build the whole
Mhm.
thing. It takes 20 years.
Yeah.
Like-
15 years in Africa, 20 years in Australia and Canada, and up to 30 years in America.
Okay, so this and even if you got rid of all the regulations like Africa, it would still take 15 years. So
It'd still take 15 years, yeah.
this idea that we're going to speed it up with venture capital money or a new business model, it's
You
like
gotta
not a thing.
buy existing resources that are already producing and expand it from there. And in this space, capital is not a moat because the people that own those resources want people that are recognized in the mining industry that they trust won't like just take it over and cause like a giant dam break. It doesn't matter if you're Sam Altman or Andreessen Horowitz. They're like, you don't know anything. Why would we do that? And then obviously their question is, well, what if I just go and pay mining sector specialists to go and form something under us and do that now? But there's probably like a similar size and scale of like mining specialists that can do all of this stuff globally as there are AI specialists. And they're all at places and they're looking forward into the market the next 5-10 years. And they're like, why would I go to an untested place when I'm about to make my multi-generational bag where I'm sitting right now?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
it's a
Well,
lot of
all you
specialized
kids-
knowledge. just
All you
like
kids
AI,
out there, go become a chemist.
Yeah, chemist,
Uh,
geophysicist, rock scientist,
You're
all
gonna
that
make
kind of stuff,
millions
right?
and millions
Like-
and millions because all these robots are gonna need all this shit, and like
It's quite a moat.
The
15
bottleneck
years.
is fucking becoming a chemist.
It's quite a moat. 15 years. I mean, no capital is that patient, so it's just a huge
Yes,
moat.
that's correct. That is exactly
You
why
know
the
why?
US
You
doesn't
know
have
why
one.
else I'm doing this vanadium plant? Like vanadium flow batteries aside.
No,
right?
it's because
Put
you
that-
want to.
put that
It's
aside.
because you want to be close to the governor. That's why you're doing it.
Well, there's that, but then also separately, like we're purchasing a vanadium plant that is currently offline in a country that I don't want to say, and then we're going to break it apart and bring it over here to the US. But what that
Oh.
also comes with,
Bro,
what
that was what we
also
used to
comes
do
with,
with Africa, where we would take
It's not.
something
Yeah.
It's
from
not
Germany
Iran.
and move it.
I can't say who it is, but what that also comes with is that like the entire country's like specialty metallurgists will also like come to America. And all of those metallurgists represent something like 40% of the world's specialty metallurgists that aren't just extracting vanadium, but they can they have like industry knowledge going back decades
This-
on being able to extract like 40 or 50 different specialty metals that no one gives a shit about, but like matters.
This is exactly
That's
the
what you're
focus.
buying.
That is exactly the moat. That's the moat, is those people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Operation
That's right.
Binder Clip is what we call this. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Let's end the
See
stream.
ya.
Great ending.